Holmes was born. Then he got fat, bald, and tired. What's up, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on the show. What a day it's been. Oh, I gotta close that window because I was watching myself talk, which is very self-conscious making. I hope you guys aren't self-conscious making, Rich and Miles. Are you feeling self-conscious?
No.
Rich is.
Oh, yeah. Miles is feeling self-conscious for me.
So you are Miles Tillman?
Miles Tillman, yeah.
And Rich
Grillotti.
Grillotti.
Grillotti. Like
I was close.
Okay, that would be like an extra I in there, I suppose.
I do that a lot. I add new sounds, and it makes people mad. But you guys don't seem mad at me yet. You were willing to be on my show. You are from PixelJam Games. You make video games. That's awesome. Yeah. How long have you been making them games for?
Oh, 2006?
Or 5. Late 2005, yeah.
Something like that.
Whoa, that's heading towards 10 years.
It is. Yeah.
It's pretty intense. And did you make games separately from each other, and then you got together with the rest of the PixelJam team at some point, or has it always been a collaboration? We
were roommates in Chicago for, I don't know, a couple of years, and we decided to do it together to get into. We were. I think it was one day we were just like dissatisfied with our. At the time, .com boom jobs or whatever they were at the time. And we were like, well, we could do, we could start doing stop motion animation because that's super cool. Or we could make video games. And we just kind of went for the video game thing.
Huh, interesting. So you have a background in animation?
Sort of. We both went to art school. But we weren't like art school nerds or anything.
I went to art school, too.
You went to art school?
I did the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. Oh, nice. And I found that there were, of course it's a stereotype, but there was 3 distinct camps. The guys who just were really wanting to draw orcs, and then the guys that, and mostly women actually, but some men who were just painting an entire canvas brown.
Right.
They did it. And then there was me, who was just like, "Can I not do anything and still get an A?" that would work for me. I did. Which were you guys in any of those?
I was
camps?
Probably more towards the orc camp.
That's a good camp. Those were the guys I was so jealous of. They had talent.
I didn't draw any orcs in college, but I'd say like that's kind of probably where I was coming from. And Rich. More into photography or something?
I was exploring as many mediums as I could. I don't feel like I'd fall into either of those camps. I was like all gung-ho on like making the most out of my time at art school and exploring and producing and learning all different styles and things.
I was drawing orcs.
And I actually wound up doing something that I didn't do any of.
Yeah.
Was there any game design stuff at your college at all?
No, just art and design.
No, we're old dudes.
Yeah.
Me too.
It was like 95,
I think.
Or so. In college, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I started too.
There was no
That's
game.
when I was like finishing actually.
Game design was considered something kind of like silly to do at the time, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't really. It just started.
Unless you're gonna go AAA or something. I don't even think the indie scene was even. I mean, it was. What it was like spiderweb software, or that was about it.
There was like
Newgrounds was starting. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Just as I was graduating, Newgrounds might have been popping up, and I remember some people were saying that installation art and video games were kind of the same thing, and I was seeing some installations based on Atari 2600 graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I was graduating right at that time. I'm like, now I have to get a job. I can't stay here for like 3 more years and actually do something that I'm excited about. But yeah. Huh. So you got out of art school. Did you both go? Did you both graduate at the same time?
Yeah, we met at art school, and then we kind of moved to different places for a while, and then we both met up in Chicago, and then that's when we decided that games were cool and we wanted to make them.
Yeah, and we had worked together on numerous projects, design projects.
Yeah.
So we established that we actually worked really, really well together, like incredibly well. all the time. It was great. So when it came time to decide on making video games, it wasn't actually like, let's make a game company. It was just like, holy crap, you mean if I make a character walking, you can make the arrow keys make the thing move around?
Yeah.
And we were actually inspired by Atari 2600 Adventure, so we started making our own like sequel to Adventure just for fun, which never actually resulted in an actual sequel. It just got us started.
But Rich has the whole thing mapped out.
Somewhat.
Really? I heard about a sequel to Adventure a while ago.
There was
an actual Atari. It's like the Atari Flashback 2 system has it, and it's not really complete. I could tell. It's like
Is that the one where they shaded the yellow square a little bit on the side and gave him like a shine, so
it
it's
was
like real?
3D cube.
No, I don't think so. It was interesting. It looks like if they actually went ahead with it and finished it, it would have been pretty cool. But anyway, ours was different, and then we scrapped that and moved on once we realized that it was possible to like pick up an item and drop an item with a key and things like that. We moved on to this other way ambitious game.
And then we scrapped that, and we started something else and scrapped that, and started something else and scrapped it.
No. We started game one, which is pretty awesome, it created the whole original PixelJam style and universe. Kind of like Gamma Brothers are from that universe, and Rat from Rat Maze. Dinos would fit in it.
We should have like supporting visuals up here.
I know.
Like, whoop.
Don't have those.
Oh, maybe in the edit. Yeah, we could try to edit that in later. That would be fun.
Okay, I'll send you files and things.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. So for people who don't know, who are just learning about you now, Gamma Brothers, was that the first big game you would say you came out with?
Yeah. Rat Maze was the first small game. Gamma Bros was the very next after that, and that was we put it out there and we got nominated for nominated as an IGF Best Web Game. Was that a category at the time?
That category no longer exists.
So we got lucky, and
that got axed like 2 years after we went.
Oh, that's sad.
That's how we got kind of like
we ruined it for them.
Introduced to the whole indie scene and realized it was actually a thing, and like, holy crap, we could actually do this and make money and stuff if we wanted to. And we love doing it.
We haven't made any money.
No, we haven't actually made money. We've survived, though. We've made enough to live, well enough.
That part we're still working.
Yeah.
And you've got the new Octology came out recently. That has 8 products in it. Is that right?
Yeah, 8, something like that.
Yeah, it's 8 Octology.
8 or so. It's kind of weird to think like...
It's not a for sale game, so it wasn't.
Gamma Rose is free.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We could just start charging for it. I don't know, just for the hell of it.
That's what people tend to do.
Now $10.
Maybe you can describe Gamma Brothers to the people who may or may not have heard of it.
Yeah, there's these two brothers, Buzz and Zap, who work on the space station by Jupiter, which you wouldn't really know by playing the game. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they start out in an office, and then they clock out and get in their spaceships individually and start heading towards home, and then it's like a space shooter with bosses and mini bosses and
kind of like Robotron in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way of.
But it starts out really, really mellow. It starts out like oddly mellow, but then gets super intense at the very end.
Very intense. And
Anthony Birch did a really great write-up on it when it came out.
It's on Destructoid.
It's like on the Destructoid archives or something. It's probably the best write-up.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were saying it was the best write-up? We did one?
The best write-up about the game that I've read personally.
That goddamn Anthony Birch makes the rest of us feel real bad about ourselves. Because when he wrote that, he was like 14 or something. I'm not kidding. Everyone's like, "Who's this Anthony Birch guy?" And he's like, "Well, I'm just finishing up high school." When he was at Indestructoid, he wasn't. He was definitely a teenager. Now he's writing Borderlands. That son of a bitch.
Oh right, that's what I thought. I wondered about that. I heard he got a job at Gearbox, and I figured he'd be writing
to him about that.
He was on the show last year to talk about Borderlands 2. He said the script was like this long. He wrote like all of it himself.
A stack of paper this big?
Or one page?
One page? A page this size? Or a,
by 11?
Or a stack of paper?
Double space.
I'm sorry, I should have implied it was a stack. But Gamma Brothers, that came out in what? That was 2007?
6 or 7. I think.
6 or 7. And at that point, kind of a low-res, simple, easy-to-define mosaic-style dot art, as they call it in
Minimal
Japan.
pixel art, yeah.
Yeah, was like, whoa, someone's doing that. That's like a whole new thing to bring that back. Since then, people have kind of attacked the style and said, oh, they're just cashing in on the retro style because Black Eyed Peas have a album cover that looks like that. And
well, it's clearly awesome if everyone wants to get on it.
That's a good point. Yeah, but people attack it and say that it's like a gimmick. What would your response be to those people?
It may be gimmicky in some cases, but I don't feel like I love it. The way we started out, kind of, or at least in my mind, was kind of like, let's proceed as if no polygons, no 3D gaming systems ever happened. And what would happen if, like, the 2D pixel stuff just kept on going? Because it seemed like there was so much untapped potential before it moved on to 3D. So that was kind of my thing. And plus, I grew up with the Atari 2600 and NES, and I always wanted to make games like that. So for me, it was kind of like in my system to get out and do, and it hasn't left. And while I do think it would be fun to make other games like hand-drawn style or collage or even like super current 3D would be a lot of fun, but I have no idea how to do any of that. So, so I could probably do the hand-drawn and other stuff. But
Rich is actually a very, very good drawer, but nobody's seen it yet.
Oh yeah, no, I believe it. Yeah, I think you have to.
Well, they've seen it in the pixel style, but they haven't seen his drawing.
Not the drawing.
The drawing.
I think it's a huge. It's to be able to do pixels, you need to understand negative space, positive space, economy of space in general. Be able to say something expressive with a very small tool set. And
I can give a really good example of it. Rich was over at our place, my wife and I, our place yesterday, and Rich was showing her this whale that he had drawn. And originally the whale, his eyeballs were 2 pixels wide, tall. They were a single pixel wide and 2 pixels tall. And and then he changed them to be just 1 pixel tall, and all of a sudden the personality of the whale is completely altered just because of this single dot that was taken away. And all of a sudden, like, she could see the personality of the whale, like the fact that his eyes were 2 pixels tall, and his head is like 7 or 8 pixels tall, I should mention, or more. But those little details, I see Rich working on this stuff all the time, and it's amazing, like how it's like this little. Well, I'm just putting words in Rich's mouth, but it's like a little 2D puzzle, to figure these things out. Like,
this is a lot more like doing puzzles than drawing much of the time. Like figuring out like where should I push this pixel to make it resolve and be what it needs to be without funky edges or looking distorted.
I think also, like, to our detriment, a lot of our screenshots don't necessarily like really show the type of work we're putting into it, because sometimes, like our recent game, Rich is done. It's just me now.
I'm gonna grab something.
The screenshots don't always do them justice because a lot of the effort is put into the animation detail and the smoothness and the personality and all that stuff, and the screenshots just don't do much for it. Like, I was looking at some screenshots of Potato Man just yesterday, and it's like, wow, like, I love the way the game looks, but it's really hard to get a good screenshot of it because it literally just sometimes just looks like there's nothing going on, or that if you played it, it would totally suck. But I hope that's not true.
And I guess
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say a little more about like the pixels, doing pixel art, and what amazed me when I first started doing it, because I was very intimidated when I first started with so few pixels. Like, how do I represent this and that? And I learned that context is pretty much 90% of it. Like, 1 pixel can equal so many different things based on what's around it. It could be a bullet, it could be a fly, an apple, something else, whatever. Yeah, it's just incredible, like what your mind will do to fill in the gaps of what each thing is.
Yeah. Well, it's I'm sorry, go ahead.
It just made things a lot easier for me. Like, oh, I don't have to do all the work. Like, human brains fill in these details that I'm not even capable of doing with so few pixels.
Yeah, but you have to do the work of putting yourself in the human brain, how it's going to perceive it in context, and make it as good as you can, which I think you guys have done an amazing job at it. It makes me. I've been trying to not talk too much about it because sometimes on this show I have people on the show who just think exactly like me, and then we just tell each other the same thoughts that we always think.
Right.
Or I don't intend it to be that way, but I already sense that happening, so I'm trying to keep myself out of it. I will ask you though, if let's say you were, whoa, what's that thing?
It's a pretty flower.
If you were, imagine if you can, I try to do this every day, just about every day. Imagine you're 15 years younger, and you got into games when the PlayStation 1 was kind of like your NES or even your Atari. Do you think you would have loved pixels in the same way, or would you have even loved video games in the same way?
Yeah.
Do you think that would have appealed to you?
We found that like the demographics that seem to respond to what we're doing the most are people our age and really, really young people, like super young.
Yeah, kids don't seem to have an issue with like pixel art, non-pixel art.
Yeah, my 3-year-old son he looks at any of the stuff that Rich is doing and he instantly knows what it is, even though it's only like 8 pixels tall. And my son doesn't look at like games or media or cartoons or anything.
He's simple enough to appreciate what things as they are.
He like instantly knows that that's a unicorn, that's a a man, that's a whatever it is Rich is trying. And
right,
so like so he doesn't have to like run through that. This is pixel art. Okay, what am I looking at? Like he sees it and he sees what it is, and to him there's no difference between that and just drawing it on a piece of paper and including all the details and curves. Because like it's a representation, it's a symbol, it's not the thing. So any symbol of it is good enough for him.
Sounds like what I'm gathering from kids. We had James Kochalka on, and his son made a brief appearance. James Kochalka, working with you on Glorkbot Adventures and Glorkbot's mini adventure. His son came on and said that he didn't care. Polygons, pixels, whatever. It's about if the game looks good and if it's fun. And he seemed to be kind of not a part of this kind of, to me, it's weird, social class system that has developed in the video game culture, where people think, oh, a shiny polygon game, that's for the mainstream, which is a different social class than the indie class, which is willing to accept pixel art, or the retro class, who are old guys who don't have anything relevant to say anymore. So who cares what they think? Or people are getting into the Minecraft aesthetic as like a symbol of being someone who's rejected the pixel, and it's like all this jumbled up garbage coming along with just.
I think someone accused Dynarun of being a Minecraft clone once. They're like, pixelated platformer, Minecraft clone. One of those like offhanded internet comments that you should not read. If you make games, you should not read internet comments. Like, Minecraft clone, pixel art.
for people who don't know, Dynarun's one of the games in the Octology, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dynarun SE, yeah.
Yeah, tell us all about Dynarun.
Oh
boy.
Wait, I have an image.
He does.
Oh, sure.
I found Richard's stash of cards of
Oh, look at that. He's got a little hat on. They all have little hats on.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's probably blurry, and I don't have any way of...
There's some more Dynaruns in there, too.
Okay. Oh, yeah, here's another. How many Dynaruns are there?
I made about 4 Dynarun business cards. So.
Dynarun.
That's the samurai, right?
Yes. You have to earn that one.
You got to earn that samurai helmet.
Yeah.
You got it on your shirt, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, right, I forgot.
Yes, you got all this stuff.
So, what happens in Dino Run?
You are a dinosaur, a little raptor.
And you're running.
And you run.
Yeah.
Basically, the game starts out, it's all serene, and then an asteroid, the big old asteroid impact hits.
The big old asteroid.
And you then have to run, or you'll be consumed by the doom cloud, or the pyroclastic wall of doom, as somebody said somewhere else.
And we appropriated for all of our press after that. Pyroclastic! That's going to sell millions of copies! Just put that in there.
And when did that game come out? I'm trying to recall.
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
That long ago.
That's right after that is when we actually started doing this for like full time without doing side jobs.
Right. We were part-time throughout this whole process through Gamma Bros and Dino Run. Until Dino Run came out, and then we were full-time.
And it wasn't because Dino Run made us lots of money. It was because we started getting work from clients like Comedy Central and Adult Swim. So
Right. And
started funding ourselves.
was Dino Run influenced by some of the other runner games that had come out, or 2008 seems like it predated them?
There was one runner game that I saw before Dino Run. It was called Run Man Race Around the World, and I don't know how popular it got. It looked pretty cool, but it had a similar mechanic. It was more platformy, like the terrain was more squarish, you know, but there was this thing chasing you, and you wanted to get away from it, and the better you did, the further away from it you got. But I think Dino Run, it's weird. Like we're actually still working on it for iOS now, and it's funny. Like we did Dino Run in 2008. At the time, I don't think there was no runner genre that I knew of. I think Cannibal kind of not polarized, kind of like canonized or crystallized the runner genre. And all of a sudden, the runner genre was a thing. Like, you don't move, you just jump. And then, but like in ours, it was always a platformer to us because you can move left and right. Like, it's not moving for you. And you can jump and you can duck and you can do all this stuff. So it was always just a platformer that was just really fast. It was a fast platformer.
Where you have to escape all the time.
Yeah, and it does have run in the title, and you are constantly running, but we didn't think of it as a runner because we didn't know what that meant.
Right.
But it's kind of funny that we're going to release Dino Run iOS in a few months or something like that, and it's going to be post Runner Boom or whatever, like, the post iOS Runner Boom. People are speculating that it's gone bust now, like the peak is over, the runner peak is over, and here we are with like our original runner or whatever.
We still get a lot of love from children, like fan mail and just appreciation for the game and how much they love it. So I could see that it's something people still are interested in, or at least kids. And it's pretty steady, and like since it came out, the multiplayer exists, and still people attend and play it and join the chat
and grief it.
It's still relevant somehow. So, and they want it. So.
And there's no huge lines of coins to collect, and there's no in-app purchases or any of that bullshit.
Yeah, I'd like to think that the runner boom isn't over, just like the FPS boom isn't over. I think that if you do it in an interesting way, you can still capitalize on that, because people want a simple mechanic. They're burnt out on 12-button controllers. So if you can feed that need for them, then they're going to be happy. And I think Dino Run can do it, and so can Potato Man. So we can talk about that potato. First of all, that trailer for Potato Man. How the hell did that happen? That doesn't deserve to happen. It's too good to live. How did you make that thing exist?
We had some friends who were filmmakers, and they basically said, well, I don't know who said it first, but we agreed to have them make a trailer for it. But basically, we could not afford a trailer like that. Like, it's not like we had a bunch of money and we paid some film company a bunch of money to make a trailer. We basically work on trade, I would say. I don't know if that's not the right answer to your question, but like we had some friends, some good friends of ours, and they make really great films. And actually, they just had their feature film premiere last night at the Boston Sci-Fi Film Fest. Don't you live in Boston?
I do live in the Boston area.
At the Sci-Fi Film Festival?
I should have gone. Drat. Is it too late? Maybe I'll still go.
Yeah, the film is motivational growth. Like they finished this film before. It's Imagos is the name of the company. They finished this film before we ever met them. But like post and promotion and festival, that takes a long ass time. So, so they did this. They did it really quickly. It's kind of amazing how quickly they did it. I don't know the exact time, but it came together really fast, and we just let them do whatever they wanted. And we said to them, come show us some ideas, and they showed us like 3. And Malik Hendersnoos was the one we liked the most, and we didn't we weren't there for the shoot. We didn't have any input for the script. We just told them a few things that we liked and didn't like from the initial idea and the script, and then they just ran with it, and then they just showed us the final thing. We were like, oh my god, it's amazing.
Is that a professional actor? That man? Who's that man?
Yeah, he's a professional actor. He's
very good.
Yeah. And I think the trailer's got a lot more press than the game, which I guess is okay, but every time I get some alert, like some sort of alert, like Potato Man just got mentioned on Rock, Paper, Shotgun, or Joystick, or Polygon, or PC Gamer, it was like, this trailer is amazing, and then I'm like, it's also about a game, but the trailer.
It's kind of Dead Island in reverse in a way.
Yeah, we didn't really know how the 3 minutes of bonkerness followed by 5 seconds of gameplay footage would pan out, but I'm not. Yeah, we did
Hopefully
it.
Well. And it'll last. The thing about it is, what I love about the internet, and what I hope will help you guys with the internet in general, is that someone might find that trailer in like 20 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is this? And then all of a sudden it could go viral on whatever kind of internet they're using in the future. And then all of a sudden Potato Man sales will explode. It's when you're not in the whole AAA race to get your game in the store, and then its sales disappear, and in 2 months race you can win in the long haul. So that's what I hope happens. But we should talk about, you're right, enough about the trailer. What about the game? Potato Man Seeks the Truth.
The game. Oh, before that, I think as a 10-second break.
Oh, sure.
Rich this is the initial sketch Rich made for Dino Run.
The idea came as I was in the passenger seat driving to Burning Man one year, and it just all came at once. The title came with the idea of this dinosaur, or in the sketches, different dinosaurs, racing from various types of threats. And anyway, that was the beginning.
What gave you the hope to make it into a real thing? I think that's the question a lot of people who want to make games ask themselves, like, how can I take my little pencil drawings and make it into a thing?
After Gamma Bros, we had a few prototypes that we worked on for quite a while that we just shelved for various reasons. There was a game about bees, and then there was a game about the moon, and they all actually got pretty far, like, we're definitely doing this, and then a month later, it's like, we're not doing this anymore.
Run out of resources.
Yeah, well, like, some of it was just technical. At the time, I wasn't that good at coding. I don't know, like, Gamma Bros, if you look at it, it's really just squares that move, that shoot other squares, which is actually pretty easy to do with code. Dino Run is a lot more complex, because there was I had to, like, roll my own physics engine, because at the time I didn't need other ones, so I just had to learn the math to do it. So that was the major hurdle. Multiplayer is a horrible pain in the ass to code as well, but that's not really that doesn't answer your question. We just like this idea enough to see it to completion.
Yeah. we were brainstorming, like, micro game ideas. What game can we make really quickly?
Oh yeah.
And this was one of them. But of course, we were like, that's our favorite. And then it took like 6 months or so.
6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
Potato Man was actually. Yeah, Potato Man was the same way. Potato Man was supposed to be. It was another one of those. Let's just make a game in a week. We're not good at making games in a short amount of time, even though that's what we really enjoy doing, because we have so many ideas that we're excited about. It's easy to, like, keep the passion, throughout the entire project if it has a really short dev cycle and a small scope. For us, at least, I know that's not the case with a lot of other game devs that kind of work on one thing for 3 years and release it and work on another thing for 3 years.
It sounds appealing a little bit.
It does sound appealing. It also sounds kind of maddening. And I've talked to a lot of developers that work on games like that, and they're always like, oh, the last year's been hell. I don't want to launch it, but we're going to, and now I just want to crawl in a hole for the next half year and just work on my own game again and whatever. So Potato Man kind of started as, like, what can we do in a very short amount of time? And the actual game was probably, like, done in a week.
Really?
Like from
The bare bones.
the bare bones, like beginning to end. Like most of the characters were there. A lot of the text, the dialogue was there in some various state of incompletion. But the game itself was kind of like reached a realization point in about a week. But then it took like another 3 or 4 months to polish it
and fine-tune like the actual message and what it was really about.
Oh,
we
right.
had to come to discover that for ourselves.
Yeah, we didn't actually know what the truth was when we started the game. We just thought it would be cool to have a little potato man seeking it. and I don't remember even. I think at the time I thought that I knew what the game was about, but we didn't really learn what the game was about until about a day before it launched.
And how did you figure it out, or how did it figure out itself?
It was just under like some back and forth Rich and I were having about what should happen at the very end, and after we didn't know what we wanted to happen at the very end, and there was some back and forth on it, and then something was suggested, but we realized.
Whoa!
Potato Man.
He's so pink.
It's, you know,
He's
flesh colored.
Yeah, he's pink because he's alive.
Well, people hear potato, they expect either peeled or brown skin.
Yeah.
But he's more the man color.
He's more like a fetus. He's kind of fetus colored. He's got
so, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, we realized what we didn't want at the end of the game, and realizing concretely what we did not want, which was basically an explicit spelling out in words of what the truth is.
Which isn't even possible.
Which actually isn't even possible. But it's funny, it also came from one of our testers, who hopefully I thanked profusely, but he played it, the early build of the game. And have you played the game all the way to the end, John?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. He played it, and what he played was, you know how the ending kind of has like 3 parts? I won't like get super into it. I don't want to spoil it, but the ending has 3 parts. It's got the kind of like spacey part, and then it's got a more concrete, down to earth part, right? The original version of the game ended with the spacey part. That's it. And he played it, and he wrote us this like really impassioned email about you. Basically, like, you guys copped out. You alluded to so much of this stuff, and at the end, I just saw a bunch of squiggly lines. You could have done. There's a million things you could have done besides the spacey squiggly lines, and you could have gone into these quotes from these famous people who know all about the truth, and you could have said like the state of mankind is you had me. You were ready to give me some amazing message, and you just blew it. It's just some squiggly space lines. Fuck
you
you
didn't
guys.
see the message in the squiggly space? Did you initially, when you finished the spacey ending, did you go like, "Wow, we told them the truth, guys"?
The initial truth was supposed to be kind of like, relax, don't sweat it. The kind of classic greeting card, the journey is more important than the destination type thing.
Sure.
But then that just wasn't working for us towards the end, especially not for Rich, and I'm really glad he got really vocal about it, because often, like, in our relationship, it's more like our
business relationship.
in our personal relationship. It's all the same. He was really vocal about, like, we can't just end it this way, and I'm glad it went the way that he suggested, which was like, we need to like, we don't necessarily need to spell it out, but there needs to be something that kind of like not brings it back full circle, but just is not even like satisfying, but is just like authentic or real, or like, if that makes sense with the ending that you saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ending, for people who haven't played it yet, we don't want to spoil it for you, but it's what almost everyone talks about after they've played it, and it's gotten its own critical acclaim. Just the ending, people have written about it on its own, which is interesting in that it doesn't sound like it was the prime objective was to send a specific message with this game. It sounds like you
It
just wanted to have fun making a game, and you were writing off of inspiration, not even sure what it really meant yet.
Yeah, there was the desire to make a game that was more than just, have fun and stop when you win.
It was kind of contemplative throughout, kind of like asking questions and noticing people all have their opinions about what it is, and you can't really trust anyone else. What anyone else says, you have to kind of look within your own experience to discover for your own self what it is, because nobody's trustworthy in this world, except for a select few.
Oh my God, Richard, that's Dutch
shit. Well, not that they mean to be malicious, but they just don't know, and they think they know. It's like a prime problem with people.
Oh, sure, Dr. Phil, that guy with the teeth, I think his name's Olstein. Are you familiar with him? Joel Olstein?
Don't we all have teeth?
No, he's got the teeth. I mean, sure, we've all got men, but there's only one Potato Man. There's, we've all got teeth, but this guy, wow, Joel Olstein, check him out.
Okay.
So, again, people sadly may have never played Potato Man Seeks the Truth. So sell them on it. Walk them through it. Tell them what happens and how it feels when it's happening.
Do that right now?
Do it.
I thought we just did. Oh wait, we didn't actually talk about the game, did we?
Well, yeah, you talked about
the game. At its core, it's your basic run and jump, dodge.
Mm-hmm. And the characters you encounter all have something to say, and what they say changes when you encounter them at different times, and most of them are trying to kill you.
Everything in the game is trying to kill you.
Except not the owl, not like some other things.
One of our comments in the App Store was a 1-star rating, and it said, "Everything's trying to kill you. I want my money back." Like, have you played a game before?
Yeah. One of the things I love about Mario Brothers is they don't let you know what will kill you and not kill you until it's too late.
Right.
And then in Lost Levels, they even turn that on its head and make a new mushroom that you assume is fine because the other mushrooms that come out of walls, those are the good ones. The ones that are just walking around, those are the jerks. Not anymore. Now there's also a wall mushroom who will just kill you too.
Right.
So yeah, you guys give that feeling. You combine the sweet simplicity with a real. It's a harsh world, Potato Man he lives in. It's cute, but harsh.
There's kind of like another kind of overall story to the game is that Potato Man doesn't really belong in the world. It's kind of like a hint for the ending, but I don't think it really gives it away. And I think it's been out long enough.
You mean in the world outside the farm?
He doesn't...
Well, like the trailer has the farm. Let's all agree that the trailer
has a pile of potatoes. That's like not. I'm sure you're sick of talking about it, but
8 million potatoes. Yes, that was all real. They found. It's actually in Illinois. I don't want to ruin the magic. It's not in Idaho. It's in Illinois. But they were lucky enough to find a real functional potato farm just an hour outside of Chicago. From that in.
And they let the man crawl on them?
They said don't do that.
They actually said don't do that. Right when they left, when the farmer left the crew, they was like, do not climb the stack of potatoes. And right when he left, the director, Don, was like, climb the potatoes! And he's like aiming the camera. Yeah, that's all real. The farmer's son is really into video games, apparently, so he's kind of like the champion for that. Anyway... yeah, back to the Potato Man's he's not for this world, he's not really meant to be there. And so that's kind of the reason why everything's trying to kill him. Like, he doesn't really understand why everything's after him. But
this is a little new to me, actually. I have a different take on it, but it's Miles' baby.
Now it's would you call it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Like, they are trying to kill him, but there's a reason. There's a reason why they're all trying to kill him.
He wants to know the truth.
They're trying to help him discover the truth, but, like, he doesn't realize that they're all trying to help him.
Now, you feel... This is something you feel something about. That's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the only game that I think my wife actually like approved of. My wife's not a gamer, I should mention. Like she doesn't. It's not that she dislikes games, but she was never. She's. It's really valuable to be married or have a close relationship with someone that is not a gamer and doesn't even really like games or see the value in them in society, and so it kind of gets me questioning that a lot. And so it kind of brought forth this whole like, okay, well that was the idea to like make a game in a week. It's like it doesn't have to be spectacular. It doesn't have to have amazing graphics. It doesn't have to even have like this incredible level of detail that we try to put in all of our games. It just needs to say something important, and it needs to communicate that very clearly. And that's where the game started, and that's kind of what we tried to do throughout the whole thing.
I get the sense that the gaming culture is pretty insulated in a lot of ways because people who don't like video games just don't talk about them. So you kind of get a regurgitation of the same values, the same perspectives, and it's just taken for granted. Like if you come up to someone and say, "Oh yeah, I thought Grand Theft Auto wasn't that good," they'll be like, "What? That doesn't even." That can't be. Everyone loves it. If you read the magazines, you have to talk to someone from an outside perspective. They'll be like, it's kind of boring.
It's horrific. It's completely horrific. Like from an outside perspective, like 90% of all games are like, what the fuck is this thing? Like people are getting their heads shot off and arms are flying all over the place.
Run over whoever you want.
Like this child just got hit by a car and there's no repercussions for it. And
sure.
Yeah, it's interesting to get that perspective like a lot. And so, I mean, we've never made any like super violent video games, although we do actually have one coming out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's something that's been in the works for a while. We have like way too many things going on in tandem. Like the things we've released are probably just like 10% of the things we've either started or like seriously considered starting or put down on paper and designed completely, and it's kind of like a curse.
Yeah, your idea, it's a curse. No, it's true. There's no way to effectively put out all of your ideas.
Yeah, there's
not. It happen to a lot of people.
Unless they were all games we could make in a week, which is kind of like the impetus for the let's make a game in a week and just get the concept across as clearly as possible and move on. Like, we don't need to be making like huge budget games. We just want to make games,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if they're all tiny and they take like 2 minutes to play, but they get their point across, and then you can just either keep it in your memory for a while, or just completely forget about it and enjoy it while you're playing it. That's good enough. There's a bunch of questions over there.
Oh, yeah, I'll get to them, but I'm selfish. I want to ask at least one more before we get to them. But that is very nice. Thank you for asking all the questions, viewers and listeners. I appreciate it.
Green Wolf was Mark Essen's baby.
But now you're saying your wife, and I find this very interesting.
Right.
Because a lot of video game developers have made tons and tons of money off of stepping outside the box and saying, why don't other people like video games?
Right.
What can I do to appeal to them? And it sounds like that's what you're doing with Potato Man a little bit. Do you think that what she didn't like about video games is that they didn't communicate a message, that they were just pure escapism, and that didn't appeal to her? She'd rather them kind of say something?
If not necessarily say something, like they don't seem authentic. They seem like it's either like an idea hatched by a bunch of dudes looking to make money, which is like the classic argument, like with like AAA and stuff like that, or the message in them is either like kind of like worthless for the betterment of society, which is like a really harsh thing to say, but from the perspective of someone that doesn't really like games, that's kind of like the sentiment. Like, and if the games do have something that's like important to say, then they're masked. They're like cloaked. A non-gamer could not find that message in it, because you have to shoot 10 people's head off before you see this important message about humanity. Like, you shouldn't have to chop people's heads off to get the message. So,
Right.
and I know there's a lot of really interesting social commentary. There's a lot of interesting ideas in a lot of games, but I think a lot of the problem is that what you actually have to do to receive that message is still just preaching to the choir, you know. So, but the thing is, it's ironic because Potato Man is the exact same way. It's an incredibly brutal platformer, and non-gamers cannot play it. So we've, in essence, done exactly kind of like what we didn't. It's not that we didn't want to do it. Potato Man was always supposed to be a very brutal platformer. It was meant to be played by gamers. I didn't think it would be appreciated by non-gamers, but any non-gamer we've showed it to has really enjoyed it. Not because they're playing it, because they're watching me play it, and I can just like breeze through it really quickly because I programmed it, so I know like,
Sure.
you know, like it's really easy to get through. So to them, it's like they're watching a movie. And so, and it's a really short movie. It's a very short game, obviously. So, not obviously, but it is a very short game. It was always designed to be a very short game.
I didn't have a short time with it. How long? It took me a while.
I'm sorry, if you can actually play from beginning to end in maybe like 20 or 30 minutes, I think.
No way, really?
Yeah, because the ending is actually as long as the. So there's like the point at which, you know, the game is over and the ending starts, right? That time that the ending is actually as long as the gameplay if you don't die. If you play from, you know, the 5 levels from beginning to end and you only die once or twice, which is possible if you play it a hell of a lot, then it's incredibly short. Like, and that's like the one, you know, valid complaint that we've gotten is that it's way too short. Like, I was expecting this to be a couple hours long, and it was over in like 15 or 20 minutes. I want my money back.
People beat it that fast? I mean, I've seen people beat Super Meat Boy in like 25 minutes or something, but that's because they've already put hundreds of hours into it. People are beating your game that quickly?
When I play it, it's over. I can show it in about 15 or 20 minutes, because I just breeze through it. But to them, it's like they're watching a 20-minute short animated feature or something. So, and then when they watch it, they're not seeing like how actually difficult or frustrating the game can be. But the difficulty and the frustration is part of the game's message. Like, you wouldn't get that. I don't think that's the feeling you get from the ending if the game was easy.
Sure.
So it's this weird double-edged sword. Like everything I just said, like it's this impenetrable wall of gameplay to get to this message, but you're never going to see that message in Potato Man if you're a really good platforming gamer, you know?
Right. The message comes from the hardship that you personally experienced.
Exactly. The message arises from the fact that it's such a pain in the ass to get to the game.
Well, to me, melding message and gameplay and graphics, and if you are escaping to a world in whatever game you're playing, melding where you go in that escape to what you're trying to say with the message, those are the best games. And I think you guys are making games that make me feel that way, like it all connects. So great job. Questions. I should do them because I'm a dink. I'm wearing a hat, which looks stupid, but it's so cold in my house. And if I turn the heat on, my radiator makes this like loud, angry sound.
Oh.
It just hates me. It's terrible for internet radio to do that. So I'm cold. Nushi893 asks, what made you want to create a game about an ice cream truck driver that eats children at night? We didn't talk about that game yet, but we probably should.
That was Mark Essen's idea.
Messhoff,
the guy who made Nidhogg and Fly Wrench, and I think Nidhogg is what he's most well known for.
Yeah, I desperately want to get him on the show someday, because those are brilliant games.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. So we had this job making 4 little 8-bitty style games for Adult Swim, and we contacted him and asked him if he wanted to collaborate on one with us. And that's how Cream Wolf started. He gave us 4 or 5 ideas, all of which were just as twisted as Cream Wolf. But Cream Wolf kind of, if it didn't have the best idea, it had the best name. And that goes a long way. And I think it was also the best idea. But it's funny when we released that game, we actually buried our name in the credits because we didn't actually know if it was going to be well received or not. Like, the game's kind of, it's kind of offensive.
How so?
You have like this white van and these kids are following it around and they follow you back to your hideout and then you murder them.
I don't. I'm still.
It's okay
sorry,
because you're a wolf and you're actually eating them. You're not like a psycho killer.
Right.
But
You're a werewolf.
You obviously are psycho, but you're also a wolf, so it's not your fault.
He's just hungry.
He's very hungry, yeah.
I'm trying to wrap. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The problem was, like, my first child was born right around Cream Wolf, and I was feeling this guilt about it, I think. And I was like, is this the type of world I want to create for my children? So I kind of hid the PixelJam logo deep in the credits of the game. And I was like, Mark Essen, this is a Mark Essen game. But the funny thing was, like, that Cream Wolf was got really popular, I guess. Maybe not in plays, but in press. Just because the game's like super twisted, and I think it's a cool game. I actually enjoyed playing it, but at the time, like, it was a different story. But anyway, to answer your question, we didn't create that idea.
Yeah, but we liked it enough to make it with Mark. So
yeah, it speaks to me that people like laughing at how terrible they are. They watch Seinfeld and they watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because they watch those characters. They know that they have a side of themselves that is awful, and if you can safely play with that awfulness and mock it a little bit, you can feel better about yourself. And games like Cream Wolf, well, they're just absurd from the get-go, but at the end you're like, this is what I did for the past 15 minutes?
Yeah, I ate all these children.
And
we have
more questions. I'm sorry. I was caught up in
the Cream Wolf.
Sequel to Cream Wolf? Who asked that? Oh, Godly Mike. Goodly Mike, are you guys interested in making a sequel to Cream Wolf?
I would do it. I've discussed it with Mark Essen. He's into it. We like Son of Cream Wolf would probably be what it would be. And if we did, it would probably be something with updated graphics, maybe like Sega Genesis style or something like that.
Oh, wow. That would be cool.
He did the graphics for the original, and it's not exactly PixelJam style, but,
it's Essen style, but it was close enough.
Yeah, it's close. So
does Adult Swim own that, like, intellectual property?
They do own it, but they're really easy and cool to work with, so, like, I don't think it would be an issue.
Yeah. If we had a good enough proposal and could help them see the value in a sequel to that, they'd probably be into it.
We're always, like, wary of taking on contract work, though, when we're so focused on our own stuff. We only do it, like, when, the rent man comes knocking.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can talk about it, but I'd love to hear more about your relationship with Adult Swim, how that got started, how you feel about working with them in general, why you think it's been such a good fit, because they've really come out of nowhere and put out some games that have really impressed people, like legitimately well-made games. And people think, oh, Adult Swim, that's, people stay up late who don't have jobs and watch a talking container of French fries get mad at a meatball, and then they, go back to the unemployment line the next day. They think, oh, Adult Swim, that's not. But those guys are legit, and I like a lot of their cartoons anyway. And on top of that, their games too are really impressing people. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
They treat their developers well. I think that's the main. I've never talked to anybody that had like a bad experience working with them. And I think that has a large reason why they do it. They're so successful. We had an exact opposite experience with a huge video game company whose name I will not mention, so I don't want to be liable or anything.
Sure.
But at the time, we had this remake of a classic video game that everybody knows. It's a game that everybody knows. We were just about to remake it. It was for like one of the quintessential video game companies. And the whole thing went completely to shit because they just were completely unpleasant to work with. They obviously didn't value the developers any more than like a manager at a fast food restaurant values the guy that flips the burgers. And
we were actually still willing to compromise to get this game created to a point and made some concessions. And then they decided to switch the business model around on what the game was going to be instead of like a download.
The day we were going to sign the contract, it was like, can you turn this into a social game? Because social games are really hot now and making a lot of money.
Like pay as you play, microtransactions. Like this is not
makes
fit
no
with
sense.
this.
It's like imagine Pac-Man with microtransactions. Like that's literally what they were coming at us with.
That's what I'm using. I assumed my immediate thought was Pac-Man.
It wasn't Pac-Man, but it's a game as ubiquitous.
Pac-Man?
It's a game as ubiquitous as Pac-Man.
It's similarly timed out in the arcades, you know.
But anyway, as the contrast, we were getting into a new project with Adult Swim at the time, and at that's at the point where we realized, because we had never worked with like a lot of like megacorps before, and we kind of realized that Adult Swim was very different than everybody else because they let us do what we want for the most part, unless it's like legally a bad idea, they're going to get sued for it.
Sure. How do they make money off their games? They're
I don't know.
They sell
the ads, or
they sell some iOS ones.
I think it's kind of like the way music labels work. It's like they fund a lot of games, and a few of them make a lot of money, and that kind of pays for the ones that don't make money.
Mm-hmm.
So like obviously, Robot Unicorn Attack has probably paid for every Flash game they have on their site.
And you made a Robot Unicorn Attack, did you not?
Retro Unicorn.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We made Retro Unicorn Attack very recently. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was great.
But yeah, we tend to keep working with them because they're so fun and easy to work with.
Yeah, and they know how to make a good game too. Their feedback is always good and useful, and
and
we're glad to receive it.
I'm pretty sure, to answer your question, especially with the iOS stuff, they probably treat their iOS developers the same as they treat their Flash game developers, that they just let them do what they want. They just bankroll it and share some of the money when it does well. And that's basically it. It's really simple.
So how do you decide what games you want to do independently and what games you would want Adult Swim involvement with or some other?
We have a huge list of games we want to make independently that just keeps growing. So there's definitely a line. Like there's a different game, like the game we make for ourselves and the game we make for Adult Swim.
Yeah, like ideas will come out and it'll be clear, like that's a good one for Adult Swim or that's a good one for us to keep. And there's some that are sort of like could go either way, and usually in those cases we'll keep those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with no shortage of ideas, that's something you can have the luxury to decide. Other people are like, "This is my only idea. I guess I'll sell it." I'm kind of
it might be a great idea, and that might be all they need. So good for them.
Our Xanadu asks, "Would you be willing to make a 2D pixelated version of Dark Souls?"
No.
Not even for funsies? Just a little guy.
Time to make anyone else's games. We don't even have time to make things we really are passionate about. So not that we wouldn't enjoy it or wouldn't be cool, but
maybe we could make a screenshot of it.
Exactly.
Are there any big? You mentioned that you had the opportunity to revitalize a franchise that a lot of people know about.
I feel like we could show the screenshot to it and we wouldn't get sued.
Really?
Maybe, I don't know. Actually, after what I just said, we probably can't show the screenshot.
Dude, it's not like you didn't say any, stole from you or gave you a stabbing.
No.
It was just a total different business paradigm in a way we were trying to work with.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good fit. We couldn't work with it.
When there's an accountant making the decisions, it's just like not a good idea.
For you guys. For some people, that's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
But for your mindset, accountant running the show, probably. Well, you'll have to tell me later, because I'm very curious. Are there any classic franchises, arcade era, Atari 2600 era, whatever era, that you wish you could bring back just for fun? Like, if you could just will it to happen, you didn't even have to do any of the work yourself, just tell someone to make it. Is there any games you'd want to bring back?
I think Rich and Adventure was kind of...
Yeah, I love Adventure. I always wanted to see a more fleshed out Adventure for 2600 Atari.
But you're still a dot.
Yeah, it's not improved graphics at all.
The graphics are not improved.
Well, that could be your Dark Souls. I see some similarities between those two, actually. You're just in a world, don't die, and then the dragon shows up, and you're dead. It happens in in both those games. Anyway, Sirman asks, and he's a wonderful pixel artist, might I add. Sirman asks, what indie game have you really read into lately? I've been reading a few interpretations of Hotline Miami, and I'm going to edit his question. It can be any old game.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't like these distinctions between, just because you made it independently doesn't mean
Right.
it was necessarily a game about the message, and likewise.
Rich plays a lot more games than I do. I actually haven't completed a game in probably like 5 or 6 years.
Have you played a game well enough to get an idea of what you think it is and
No.
read into what that message?
I played Bastion for about 4 hours once when for some reason like my kids were asleep and my wife was out for 4 or 5 hours, and it was awesome, but I could tell I had like 30 or 40 more hours ahead of me, and I'm never going to get that time. So I just kind of like left it there. But I really want to play it, and it seems like an awesome game, but Bastion is probably like the closest thing I've gotten to like really getting into a game.
What did you like about that game? What did it give you that?
I really liked the way it. At first, I didn't realize what I was getting into. I didn't realize there was going to be like this like kind of like old-sounding voice actors narrating everything I did. And at first, I was like, "What the hell?" You know, I've never played a game with narration. This will give you an idea. I don't have any consoles. I haven't played any like. I haven't like really played games since like the first PlayStation, I guess. Because I just haven't had time. So to play a game that was like really well voice acted and just really well put together, I was like, wow, this is something new. Of course, I guess it's not something new because this is like what modern games are like now. But I haven't played any of them, so I don't really know. Rich can speak to more than that, but I liked actually the first thing that kind of clicked with me was the fact that I was doing it's a classic action RPG, and the first thing you do is just running around and you're breaking everything you can to see if there's coins in it. There's all these vases. I'm like, oh, there's coins in these vases? Of course there are. I'm gonna break them and I'm gonna take the coins. And then the narration completely justifies what I'm doing. It's like, kid just rages for a while, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just raging. Like, like I have 2 swords. I'm really good with them. I'm just gonna break everything. Like, it no longer became it was no longer just breaking vases to find coins, like the classic action RPG mechanic that you have in like every single game like that. All of a sudden, there was a reason for it. There was an actual reason that I was breaking these vases, and it's not to find coins to get better weapons. It was the fact that I had a lot of energy. I was just spazzing out, or I was angry, and I just needed to like vent my frustration on these vases.
It's a weird thing the narration does. It instead of like so many games today, instead of the game telling you a story, you like tell the game a story, and it reflects back by listening to you. Like, oh, I've gotten to know you. That's how you felt. That's what you did. And you're like, oh, thanks, video game. I like you too. Let's hang out some more. I see it happening more and more, like with the Stanley Parable. There's some games by Spooky Squid that were doing it. It's something I hope more developers pick up on and see themselves as more someone who's telling a story with the player instead of to the player. Yeah. Now I'm talking again. I'm sorry. Oh.
I just realized that we have like 22 minutes left and we haven't talked about Glorkbot.
People love, let's talk about what you want to talk about and then try to squeeze the questions in.
I actually wanted to squeeze the questions in too, but I'm like, I just realized all of a sudden that we should probably talk about Glorkbot. I guess we don't have to talk about Glorkbot, but it kind of seemed to be.
Let's talk about the Glorkbot.
It seemed to be the impetus for the contact between Holmes and PixelJam, so maybe.
Well,
not.
I guess
that's true.
Yeah, sure. But I'd love to do a game for the consoles. I've never considered anything about why Sega hasn't made a Sonic runner yet. It always seemed like a runner to me, but I don't know.
We'll work on a game for the consoles when it's not so freaky scary from a developer standpoint.
And we can afford to do so.
Yeah, it's like we just hear nothing but horror stories now.
I'd love to see Glorkian Warrior on a console. I think that would make great sense.
If the Ouya is considered a console, then sure, we'll make a game for the console.
I think it is considered a console.
Yeah.
People are hoping that it's going to be the console.
Yes, we will make a game for consoles, and it will probably be the Ouya and probably not, Xbox PlayStation.
Well, I wonder, every day, just today, I got an email from someone at Nintendo who will remain nameless. And he's like, talk to your guests on the show, let them know we want their games on 3DS and Wii U. We'll make it as cheap and easy as possible to do so. So that goes out to you guys, too.
That's true. We did speak with someone also at Nintendo, nice guy, and we talked about Dino Run being a 3DS candidate. Potato Man would also make a good one, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We should just do the whole suite.
Sure.
Every PixelJam game ever. 3DS. All in one game.
Well, Jason Rohrer had some mild success with his alt play on DSiWare, of all things. Like, no one cares about DSiWare. It's like the media just shuns it. The video game media is like, not cool. But he actually made some money off of it, which is nice.
That's cool.
Good. I can't run his games.
I think there's only one more. Oh, no, there's two more questions, right?
I don't know.
Played any older games for the first time recently.
Oh.
We should get a little cozier at him.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's licensed to Bill. Thank you, Bill.
I'm cozy enough.
Rich and I are going to cuddle after the show's over. It's just like really hard to resist him. I'm doing my best.
You look like it's a struggle. So what? By older games, I think he means just older in general. Maybe older to
I played
you.
Rez.
Rez, that's right. We played Rez for the first time.
It's a PlayStation 2 game. I never played it, but I read about it, and it showed up at a used game store, and I tried it, and maybe I just didn't play it very well, but I wasn't blown away. But maybe at the time I would have been blown away.
I think at the time you would have been blown away.
When it first came out, you mean?
Yeah. Also, the fact that if you die on the first boss, you have to start over from the very beginning. I could have sworn we were going to start at the boss, and that kind of ruined it for me. Actually, I started Star Tropics recently for the 8-bit Nintendo. It's an awesome game, but it becomes really unforgiving really quickly, and just makes you do stupid shit over and over again. And you can say that was one of Rich's main complaints about Potato Man, and we eased some of that out, but it's still in there, is that it kind of makes you do the same thing over and over again if you're not good at it.
I don't know. It's a place you want to be, though. That's the thing about Potato Man. This is how I feel about the old Mega Man games, too. A lot of people say I hate Mega Man because it's too hard and it's got trial and error difficulty. And I say, no, you hate Mega Man because you don't like the music that much. It's not a place you want to be. I love the music and I want to be there, so it's like, do that level again. I'm like, great! I can't wait to just beat Bubble Man's whole stage again and then fight him and die again. Because I love being there, so it works for you.
That's a very valid point. Thank you.
You guys are being so nice to me. It's ridiculous.
I had to go through Potato Man very carefully and also watch people play that didn't know how to play games well, which gave me a lot of insight as to the need for more checkpoints. I found that was really helpful. And I am very sensitive to, I don't have too much time and I want to play games, and when a game wastes my time by making me do something, it's like, I've already proven I can do this, don't make me do it again. Especially if that thing was really difficult and I finally got through it, and then something after there killed me, but then I had to do the really difficult thing again, and then I don't actually pass it again, that'll turn me off to a game. So I didn't want our game to do that to people. I saw that a bunch with people that were playing it that didn't play games normally, that had no skills. But they still wanted to progress because they were intrigued and they liked the character, they liked the environment. So I figured that was the best compromise, is more checkpoints.
I should mention that the original version of the game, you had maybe 3 lives to start, and you had to start at the very beginning of the game when you lost those lives. The idea was to almost make a game that no one could beat. And then have the ending is just some sort of crazy treat at the top of this insurmountable pyramid.
Sure.
But that's a little too artsy-fartsy.
No, I don't think so. I think that under different circumstances it would work, but only when you actually didn't like your own game that much.
Yeah. Also, I feel like the game would have to be presented totally different. It would have to be free, or I don't know. It doesn't have to be, but the fact that once you lay down money for it, you kind of expect to be treated a different way, maybe. You're not really going to put me back at the beginning of this game and make me do all of this shit over and over again.
It reminds me of a Japanese indie game I need to send you almost immediately called Sacrifice. Have you heard of it?
No.
it's got a similar art direction as your guys' games, and it's translated into English. And it's an RPG. You start off with like 6 characters, and immediately just guys attack you, and you're like, who will fight the guys? And whoever you pick will die for sure. But if he sucks, then he'll die, and then everyone will die. You go to the next stage, and it's like, there's the key. Who's going to get it? You're like, the ninja? And the ninja goes, and he can get it, but he will die for sure, too. Or if you send, like, the warrior, he'll just die before he even gets the key. And every time you die, well, everyone dies, it's over. So it's kind of
a great idea.
Describing. Yeah, it's a pretty fun game. I still haven't beaten it, but I'm still compelled to try because it didn't cost me anything, and it's just intriguing.
Our artist, Jeff Nielsen, who works for us, said something similar about XCOM. The fact that I haven't played it, but I've heard good things about it, that it's very precarious. Like, you get really attached to your characters, and it's really easy for them to die.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like it respects you and what you can tolerate. Right. It's a very fine line. From what I talk to developers, they tell me they feel it's a very fine line between you don't want people to feel like their time is being wasted, but you don't want to baby them either. You want to show them respect without throwing them in a pit of spikes either.
And the problem is that's not really a hard line. That's a spectrum because you've got everybody's individual, perspective, and you're not going to please everybody. But it's like finding that sweet spot of, okay, we're obviously going to piss a bunch of people off, and a bunch of other people are going to think we're holding their hand. But like, how can we get the most, and get the best overall effect for the most amount of people? I think
that's
it's
always
really
the question.
hard to find. It's really hard
without sacrificing your own enjoyment of what you make, not feeling like you're just following the cookbook of making video games. Yeah. We should talk about Glorkian Mini Adventure and Glorkian Warrior, though. You've been working on that game for how long?
The actual Glork, March of 2010, I think. I think that's when. So our musician Mark Donato was at a show in New York City that James Kachalka was performing in, and he met James, and they talked a bit. And James mentioned that he wanted to make a game, but he had worked with someone before, but it didn't work out. And then he was looking for someone to work with, and so Mark hooked us all up. And then he presented this idea he already had, working where it was already sketched out. So he showed us the sketch, and we thought it was super cool. So we had a Kickstarter for it. Like, we're gonna raise $10,000 and make the Glork game. This is before like the Kickstarter video game boom, when $10,000 to raise $10,000 on Kickstarter was like a really big deal. Like, we didn't actually know if we'd be able to do it or not. It was like, can we really rate? Will people give us $10,000 for something that doesn't exist? And then it happened, and they were like, we're going to make this game. And then we started working on it, and then we realized, wow, this game is huge. The scope is massive, and $10,000 will get us through, like a month and a half. A month and a half of it, and really it seems like a 1 year game or something. So it's been, I have to say, either our backers, they're either incredibly understanding and patient, or some of them have probably just forgotten about it. Or some of them just don't give a crap because they're like, I paid $10, $15, and maybe I'll get the game someday, and maybe I won't. I just want to say to every single backer, you will get that game. The game is going to happen in one form or another. Glorkbot's Mini Adventure is going to be released. At this point, it's utterly ridiculous to speculate on when. Because, like, on our website, we like, this game is coming out for sure at this date. And like that, we did that for Gamma Bros too. Like, this is a game that doesn't even exist like in any form at this point. And like, how incredibly stupid it is to actually think that when a game is coming out or when it's going to be done. It's just it's the same thing. Like, it's beyond game development. It's just life. Like, you can't say in 5 months, I'm going to be able to be at your doorstep with a salami sandwich. Like, you can't guarantee that.
You can, but you're setting yourself up.
Yes, you can.
You don't know where I live.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm just kidding.
I'll just look for that background, the purple and the green and the red. But you know what I mean? Like, especially something as outrageously detailed and mind-boggling as game development. You can't really... It's really easy to make an estimate about when something's going to be done. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, like, when we had the funding, we were like, okay, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it with this money. We'll make it work. There's always that initial, we're going to make it work. This time, everything's different. We've learned from all our mistakes. We're smarter now. We know exactly how to structure this. And then, come time we actually thought it was going to be done, you're like, oh, wow, it's totally wrong. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I really think I know what I'm talking about this time. Oh, geez, I was totally wrong. That cycle just, you get caught in it. It's a spiral that, like, out of sheer habit, you just get caught in the, this time I really know what I'm talking about. Oh, I was totally wrong. Like, spiral that never seems to end.
It's very surprising. It keeps catching you.
Yeah. And so, like, from an outside perspective, we've released like 20 games or something. Mm-hmm. We don't seem to have any sort of like problem creating and releasing games. But from an inside perspective, it appears to be sort of a mess,
Well, I'm relieved. If you guys had developed things in a different way, maybe Glorkbot Warrior would be out, but you would have never been in the mindset to create Potato Man Seeks the Truth. You would have been the kind of guys that are like tunnel vision, focused on this is the only thing we're worrying about now, and then all of these other ideas that luckily either leak out of your subconscious or pop into your heads, depending on how you look at it. You're open to those, and you let yourself get caught up in excitement and inspiration over new things. So thank you for that. Never become those guys that gets a game done right away. Those guys.
I have to say that, like, what we've learned in the last 3 years, what we've learned in the last 5 or 6 years, we're always learning. Like, every single day, every month, every week, every year, we look back on it. And like, man, like, this time, like, we've just learned so much. Like, technically, conceptually, like, structurally, business-wise, every year is just like some incredibly new, often extremely painful lesson about, like, not just how to make games, like how to conduct yourself or how to live your life, because sure. if you don't have your own shit together in your life, like, you're not going to have your shit together in your business or like what it is you do every day. So that's like the biggest struggle, just like dealing with like the things that life throw at you when you're trying to, one, keep a promise to a bunch of people that gave you money a long time ago, and try to convince them that you weren't full of shit, that you're not making vaporware, but it's completely pointless to explain like the series of events that have like kept us from actually releasing these games. Because then it just sounds like a bunch of excuses and like, oh, you could have done this and that. You can like easily pick it apart and say, well, you could have just done X, Y, and Z and released the game. And your answer is yes, we could have done those things. But
if we were you,
if we were that person that had that idea,
or had the money that wasn't there at the time.
For some reason, a lot of it's financial, a lot of it's not. Like, it's what you decide to do when you boot up your computer, or not boot up your computer, what you decide to do with yourself when you wake up in the morning. So I do think that the games are going to be better off because of all the things we've learned. Particularly Potato Man and the games we've made for ourselves. Like, yes, the Adult Swim games, of which, I don't know, we've made like more than a dozen. All the lessons we've learned doing those. We're really still like we still feel like we're in college in one way to look at it. We're still learning how to do these things. And so, had Glorkbot been released, or Glorkbot Warrior been released, we had a version of Glorkbot Warrior that I don't think we didn't send it to you, right? You haven't played it. It's like, feels like it's almost complete. Like, you'll play it, and some people would probably think, this game seems done. Why don't you just release it? And like we would look at them like, that's ridiculous. It needs to have this and that, and this thing needs to be alive, and this thing needs all this personality, and it needs all this music, and it needs much more levels and all this design and stuff. Like, it was never good enough. It was never like true to the vision that originally James had for it, that we all agreed with James to have for it. Like, it was a James idea, and then it was a James and PixelJam project, and then it was everybody's baby. And, you know, it's been a very interesting journey, I suppose. And
Sounds like it, yeah.
I don't really know what Glorkbot Warrior is going to be like, since that is like very way off into the future. But Glorkbot's mini adventure is much more. It's like there. It's like present with us right now, because it's what we're doing right now. Yeah. But we always find a way to like do other stuff also.
Or need.
Either want to or need. But you know, it's gonna be much better because of it.
I'm glad that you think of yourself as perpetually in college, because people who say, "Oh, I've learned it, now I just do it the way that I know how," growth doesn't tend to happen for them as easily. It usually has to get forced on them, like Michael Douglas in The Game. He felt like he graduated college, and then his brother had to be like, "Nope, now you're screwed." And then he learned all these things about himself. You guys are always screwed. So you're always learning. It sounds painful, but easy for me to sit back and watch and then get to play your game. So first for me, thank you.
We're not trying to paint the picture like it's been some excruciating ordeal or anything.
No, it doesn't. That's not. I was exaggerating for a comic effect, but it does sound like you're the kind of people who aren't inclined to just firmly plant your feet and say, "I'm done." Right. When your feet aren't firmly planted, they can go all sorts of interesting places, but you never feel that sense of security, which is scary, but it leads to the best stuff. These games that haven't come out yet, they just haven't found their roots yet, basically. In a nutshell, like what you just said. Glork's Minibot Adventure. We only have a few minutes left. I want to make sure that I tell people how I almost swore about it. That game's really fun, guys.
It was designed to be incredibly fun, first and foremost.
This was actually the map, the first simple map.
That was the whole game at a certain point. This was the whole game.
It's a lot bigger than that now.
Yeah.
It's like a tenth of the game.
It's really big. But it's all in one level. I mean, you play the game in one huge level. But it's based... I think you made a comment to either James or us, like, the game seems done. And, like, from one perspective, yes, it does actually seem done.
James did, I think. I felt like, while playing it, I got the sense that you had more that you wanted to do with it. And from the two builds I played, I definitely saw a progression there. But
I think what you saw is, like, is basically if you see a funhouse being built, the funhouse was complete, but the contents were missing. So that's my analogy for it.
We have 2 minutes or so. Maybe we'll go over a little bit because we started a little late. That'll be up to Sinistar.
Okay.
I'm going to describe the game to the people real quick.
Right.
If that's okay. And you can tell me what you think of my description.
Yeah.
Cute Metroid Sonic the Hedgehog world in a big place where you don't know where you're supposed to go, and that feels good. You just find yourself wandering around in a world map that's presumably small, but it feels large due to the fact that you didn't put me on any sort of linear path. Right. So you just wander into a cloud boss. It's like, hey, what's up, cloud boss? And then all of a sudden, bugs just fly out of nowhere and kill you. You're not afraid to kill me in that game either. These little bastards, I still don't know how to kill those guys who are just like, hi, you want to jump over me? Nah. I shoot fire out of my face. What? I didn't know you look so cute. And it recalls Metroid, but not in a way that feels like a overt in-your-face reference. It's more of a sideways to Metroid as opposed to a replication of it, with the little tuber guys going around, and the red ones, don't talk to them, With the cute little gray one, you can sit on his head all day. It is a fine game that I think people will be impressed with when they get a chance to play it. How did I do? Did I describe your game all right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
This
I had to be kind of shown that it was Metroid-y, but now it's like, oh, sure, yeah, I see that.
this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it has like this hand-drawn counterpart, this hand-drawn element that James is doing that is not even in the game yet, but there's going to be a lot of hand-drawn animations that James is doing for it.
Oh,
I
cool.
really want it to feel like you're watching an animated Kachalka cartoon. And then playing the game kind of like there, but there's a lot of cutscenes and stuff like that. I don't know how you actually show what we're looking at.
Well, here, I'm going to move this for a sec. This is a rough title screen example. Is it backwards?
Oh, cool. I haven't seen
It looks
that.
backwards. Why does it
It
look
looks
backwards?
forwards to me. Might be
Okay,
backwards for
this
you.
is our problem. But like, there's Glorkbot.
And there's the cave entrance. And it's just a rough title.
So in the game, you play as a robot who looks like the guy
Yeah.
you're actually playing. So it's
Yeah.
like a game within a game, almost. It's a game about playing a guy who's playing with a robot who's playing around in a cave. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Pretty much. Yeah, there may be some explanation in the Glorkian Warrior game as to why all these hand-drawn characters in the main Glork world are also pixely characters in these Glork holes.
because
or
they're
in
small.
this cave. I have an idea I'd like to see if James will go for it to help explain that one.
Huh, interesting. It takes me back to an idea I had when you were talking about how Potato Man was originally 3 lives, and then you die and it's game over. I wonder how it would have felt if you played as a guy who's playing an arcade game, and your 3 lives are over, and then you like choose to pull out a quarter and put it back in and play it
Sounds
again.
cool.
That's kind of what you're doing with Glorkian Warrior. It's like you're not when the robot dies, you don't feel
Right.
that bad because it's like, oh, well, the Glorkian Warrior is fine.
Right, I'll go buy another one or something.
Yeah, he has a strange relationship with that boss, which shall be
Yeah.
revealed in the game.
Yeah, it's similar to his relationship with his backpack.
Yeah.
I still haven't been able to beat the build that you have. Does it
Yeah.
does it end after you get all the crackers? Because I haven't gotten all
Can't
the
beat it.
crackers.
No, there will
Oh,
Even
okay.
die.
there will be an ending. Yeah, you can't die or beat it now, but that'll be there.
Gotcha. So yeah, for people who don't know, you spend most of the game collecting. Are those energy crackers?
Those are energy crackers. Yeah.
And you can find secret areas, Metroid style. You roll into a ball and gain speed and go through tunnels.
There's
Sonic.
also a very Galaga-esque to it, like the Galaga kind of shooting gallery type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key collecting immediately made me think of adventure.
Oh right, that does.
Yeah.
But where do you put the keys? You don't really know.
Yeah, we're gonna address that. We'll help you find where those keys go.
I liked it. I thought I figured it out, and it made me feel super smart.
Oh, okay.
Told me I might not have felt as smart about it.
Well,
so-
I'm not necessarily gonna tell you.
Right.
Are you gonna put the camera on that?
If it boots up in time.
You're gonna give away the whole game. You're gonna ruin the game.
Did you get all those files I sent you? All the folder screenshots before
I
this?
did. I briefly looked at them. I'm excited to look more. Today's been a big day for me. My
You got married
cartoon
and then
show premiered again.
What did?
I have a cartoon thing. It's a show on
that's a good name for
machinima.com.
a cartoon thing.
Yeah, I spearheaded the making of an internet cartoon called Teenage Pokemon, and I did all the voices and the I don't want to call it writing because a lot of it I just made up while I was talking to myself with a blanket over me. But some parts were written down. It's for sound quality. It's too
Oh,
echoey
right.
unless you have a
That's
blanket over
that's
you.
not like your thinking space.
Well, that too. Yeah, it's back on Machinima, and I was stressed out. So I've been pretty busy today. I hate to talk
okay.
about myself too much, but that's part of why I haven't checked out your stuff yet. But I do, before we go, because I think we're almost there.
Yeah, I think we're there.
gonna
Anything you
show
want to
this
touch
map.
upon? Oh,
There's the Glorkbot full map with the.
are you
secrets
kidding
on it.
me?
Yeah, it's,
That's huge.
don't tell the secrets.
There's a main Glork somewhere in here. Let's see.
Looks like a Glork.
Yeah, and then Mini Glork is next to him. Anyway,
Right.
there you go.
That is a big world. When
So
do you think
Go on.
this year? You think it's going to be done this year, don't
Oh
you?
yeah, God, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
I'd
Anything
like
else
to-
you're working? Oh, we didn't even talk about your comic making app
Oh yeah.
slash.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
Bitku, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll. Yeah, it hasn't really been revealed yet.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not. It was in the holiday bonus in the Octology.
It's like in a private beta now.
Yeah,
I loved it.
cool. If you've made comics, please send them. We want to like have a gallery once we're ready to like make it public.
We're out of time.
Yeah, I guess so. Bitku is a comic making app that you guys should all check out when it's finally out because it's easy and fun and cute. It makes you feel like you're involved with the creative process. It makes you feel like a deputy PixelJam employee. It's fun.
We're using it to recruit.
Potato Man style graphics in that one color.
Yeah, with a lot of personality. So how can they follow you, what you guys are doing? How can they keep up with you from here?
PixelJam.com is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, and we have a Tumblr.
Twitter's. Oh,
Yeah.
Tumblr too. Yeah.
Tumblr.
A
Google stuff on
Google search will get you everything you need, I'm sure.
They're too lazy. They want to hear about it, so it'll stick in their minds.
We have a website. The one we have now is rather temporary and doesn't really
It's
do us
always
justice.
it's always temporary.
It's kind of the worst it's ever been at the moment. So it's we have some ideas that we're pretty excited about for it, but again, it's like it also requires time and budget, and so it's taken us some time, but it's good enough, I guess. And the Adult Swim site has a lot of our games too.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Leave us alone.
And Pixel Jam Game at Twitter, do you keep up with that? Did you
PixelJam Games?
tweet things?
Yeah, we keep up with all the socially stuff.
Yeah, and Facebook. We have a PixelJam Games Facebook profile. Lots of stuff. So that's generally where we talk to our fans most is through our Facebook and Tumblr. We just kind of put stuff up, and same with Twitter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
As for me, Tron Knots on Twitter. You can watch this show on Dtoid TV on YouTube. You can listen to it later on iTunes. Just look up Sup, Holmes ? But don't spell out the whole thing. Just type it the way it sounds, not the way it would maybe look. And I guess watch the cartoon that we made. I did all of it other than... I actually did some of the visuals, too. Like the animators, that's hard animating. They'd be like, Holmes, I can't do that one mouth movement, man. I can't do it. I have to sleep. And I'm like, all right, do my mouth movement. So I did a few mouth movements in there, and all the talking and the concept and the blah blah blah. It's called Teenage Pokemon. It's on machinima.com. I'd like to keep making them. So if you watch it and press like, then maybe they'll
like
let
it.
me keep
If I
making
like
them.
it.
I hope
it.
it's got swears and peeing and stuff in it.
I'll give it 2
Okay, I
likes.
like super effers.
Yeah, it's similar to that. James and I, James Kachalka, we kind of had a showdown about
Nice.
who could make the most popular swearing douchebag cartoon.
That's a genre now.
But I love my douchebags. They're all just an extension of my worst traits.
Sure.
Or best, depending on who you ask. It's fun to pretend to be a teenager with a blanket over your head. I'll tell you that. Anyway, sorry for going long. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.